Hey everybody, it's Janelle Levins. Welcome to our Facebook Live, our weekly Wednesday night Facebook Live. I see we have some people joining us. So if you would just type your name in the chat box, like Janelle from Brentwood or wherever you are, because this forum is also about building community of people who really want to optimize and live their best life here at Leadership Minds and Matters. We talk about a lot of different topics, from mindfulness to emotional intelligence to all kinds of leadership skills. And tonight we're talking about empathy and how being empathetic is not the same as being sympathetic. And why should you care? Hey, Tina, thanks so much for joining us from St. Louis or Kansas, somewhere in Kansas. I know that you're located. Thanks so much for joining in. So great. So if you would just type your name in the chat box and where you're from, and we'll get started really quickly here. You know what? Hey, David, thanks for joining. And, Tina from Kansas, terrific. What sort of prompted tonight's topic was I was having conversation with a physician who, in seeing his patients was saying, I want to really be empathetic. And I think I am, but I'm just not sure. And Debbie from Delaware, thanks so much for joining in. The whole issue was I want to be empathetic, but maybe I'm more sympathetic. And so it prompted me to think, I think there's confusion about this. And the reason it's important to understand the difference, both, skills are really important, but I think there are times where we really want to be more empathetic than sympathetic. So let me first ask you, just think about this. If you were to sort of rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 is like, I think I'm really super empathetic, I really do feel, and I'm able to step into the shoes of other people, or to 1, where you really just don't get it, you don't know what people are talking about, empathy, take a minute and just think about how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? With your ability to be empathetic. Just think about that, because these terms are often confused. And I want to kind of talk about those first, and then I want to share some strategies with you about how, what the benefits are of being more empathetic, and then what you can do to actually develop your empathy. All right, David's saying he's an 8.5, so that's pretty good. So this is all self-rating. So you guys, you want to drop some numbers in the chat box, that's great. Go ahead and do that. Because empathy and sympathy are often confused. And both of these words deal with the relationship that a person has to the feelings and experiences of another person, right? Sympathy is the older of the two terms. And Tina said she's a 7, awesome. So sympathy is about conveying commiseration, pity, feelings of sorrow for someone who's going through something really tough, right? And we want to show support. I mean, we even have cards, right, in the drugstores and in card shops that actually are specifically about expressing sorrow and sympathy towards another person. You feel bad for them, but maybe you don't really know what it's like to be in their shoes. But you do feel for them, and you want to express, your concern for them. So that's really what sympathy is all about. Empathy is really about having that capacity to then step into the shoes of another person who's going through a situation and being able to experience those emotions, those ideas or opinions of another person. And Debbie's saying she's a 7. So we've got this is great. You guys see yourselves as being pretty empathetic, and that's awesome. You probably are. But I just want to go over this so in case you might be slipping into sympathy sometimes, you'll know even more how to increase your ability to be empathetic. So sympathy is really more about feeling compassion and sorrow and really, feeling badly for the person who's going through some hardship that someone else is experiencing. Empathy, again, the key distinction here is that you're able to put on another person's shoes, step into them and say, oh my gosh, if I was in this situation, this might be what I'm feeling, right? And really delving into the emotions and the ideas and whatever it is that they're going through, right? And so that's the difference between empathy and sympathy. And they both have a role in how we communicate with people who are going through tough times. But, you might be asking yourself, well, why is this distinction important, and how can being more empathetic benefit me? Okay, because I get that. And here's what I think is so important about this. When you have empathy, you're able to communicate that you care about a person. You're not just pitying them, that's sympathy. You care about them, and that you want to really hear and feel what they're going through what they express to you, what they're able to share in their communications, as well as what they're not able to express. And I think that's a key distinction. Sometimes when someone is going through something challenging, words are just very challenging to use. It's just very hard to put their feelings, into some statement or some phrase, or it's just almost impossible to express. And so while some of us are born or nurtured to be more empathetic than others, the good news is all of us have the capacity to develop empathy. Empathy is a core competency of being an emotionally and socially intelligent human being. And so when we're empathetic, we're able to really read those social cues and those tiny expressions on people's faces, right? And we pick up on maybe the incongruence of what they're saying and what their body language is saying to us, right? And that's so important, particularly when people are going through something tough. Because again, it might just be really hard to put into words. And we want to be there for people. We really want to be helpful. Yeah, and this is great. Tina's saying picking up on what they are not conveying can be difficult. Absolutely. But what I want to talk about tonight is how we can dial up that social radar, those nuances that people are really giving us, even in their eyes, right? And what they're not saying. So people who are empathetic can really flex their behavior based on those nonverbal cues, and they're able to sort of really effectively communicate, when someone is maybe not able to say the words themselves. And this really, is attributed to what we would call their social attunement. It's a good thing to have that skill, because you can really then begin to assess what's really going on with someone, right? Now, we're not mind readers, but if there's an incongruency between what someone is saying and what someone's face is saying and their body language, we want to address that, because that's how we're going to help someone the most. So we can easily step into the shoes of another person and imagine what they're thinking and feeling, and that broadens our perspective of their experience, right? And so that is really the cornerstone of emotional and social intelligence. That's really empathy in action. So let me ask you this, if you're going through a challenge and you're going through a very difficult time and you're talking to someone that you really feel understands you, and they're listening and they're not interrupting you, and they're just wanting you to express whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that you're going through, even if they don't have to even agree with what you're experiencing, right? But they're listening, they're tuning in, they're asking you to tell them more about the situation. You feel understood. And that's the greatest gift that we can give to anyone who actually needs empathy from us. It's just that they feel understood, they feel heard, they're seen. You're showing up for them, right? You're not judging them. Now, so do you want people to feel good after talking with you? Or do you want them to feel something else, that maybe, they were bothering you, or you didn't really get them, or maybe it was a waste of time to come to you to talk about something? I think most of us say, no, I want somebody to feel better after they come and confide in me or talk to me about something or express something that they've been thinking about, but they've been afraid to come to me about. You want people to come to you. And if you're a leader in a company, you want people to bring things to you so that you know what's going on in that organization. In your family, you want people to bring things to you that are concerning them. Hey, Michelle from Boston, thanks for joining in. So that's, I think, really the key is like, what is your goal? You know, if you want to be helpful to people, and I think most of us do, we've got to have that skill to be able to step into somebody else's shoes and really look at the situation from their perspective. We may not agree with it, but we can just understand it better, right? So I think, that for me is like the greatest win. I mean, sometimes we just need to be there for people. We just need to listen, and we need to just kind of get their perspective of what it is that they're concerning about. So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, that's really great for my personal life. Yeah, Tina, you're right. Feel like you matter. You want to be able to help people and talk to people, and at the end of the conversation, they feel that they were heard, that they mattered. So, I think you can be saying to yourself, well, this is really great for my personal life. Yes, I want my spouse, my partner, my kids, my friends, my neighbors, whoever, to feel like they're heard and that I care about them. But how does this help me at work, right? So let me say how not having empathy can actually hurt you at work and potentially hurt your career. So without empathy, you can't really read people and what they're feeling. You just don't have that attunement. You don't have that skill. And so you might really misinterpret things, and you might take actions because you don't really understand what the person's going through. And that could potentially alienate people that are on your team or your division or somehow work with you or in some way, are a contributor to your organization. The second thing here, without empathy, you can actually be viewed as somebody that's very uncaring, that's sort of aloof or indifferent, which in turn just makes others feel less inclined to come to you with any problems. And as a leader, you do not want that to happen. You want to know what's going on. Maybe they don't feel that they can come to you and share something that's important because they might get the sense that you don't really care anyway, right? So that's not a positive thing. So again, focusing on why empathy is important at work. The third thing here, your career and your income could be negatively impacted if you don't know how to demonstrate empathy to other people. And let me share this statistic with you. The Center for Creative Leadership did a study, and the study indicated that out of it's like 67,000 leaders from 38 countries, it revealed that empathy is very positively related to your job performance. That managers who showed more empathy towards their direct reports were viewed as better performers by their bosses. So hopefully you're getting to see that, empathy is important in your personal life, but it's extremely important in your professional life too. It can actually end up hurting your career if you do not know how to show empathy towards others. Number 4, your coworkers, direct reports may not be all in with what it is that you are asking them to do to reach specific goals, for example. Because if they think, well, you're just more concerned about yourself than other people, why should I help you achieve this big goal, right? So that can alienate people as well. So you want to demonstrate that you are other-centered versus self-centered. When you're other-centered, you naturally are able to demonstrate empathy towards other people. All right, number 5, and how important having empathy is to you in your career. You may have more misunderstandings due to, solely not being able to understand, or people feeling like you don't understand them. Like, the consequences, like they might want to come to you and share something that's happening on a project, right? But if they feel like you don't really care about them and you don't really, you're just thinking about yourself, they're not going to bring those things to you, right? And that can damage your relationships, that can minimize trust, and it can impact deadlines for things that you have to get done. So again, just really simple here, people. Just demonstrating you care will encourage people to come to you proactively about things that are going on within your team, within your division, your company, and you want that, right? Now, number 6, think about this. Not only your direct reports, not having empathy can alienate customers for the same reasons that I just talked about. It can alienate employees and people that you work with. If you're not truly able to step into the shoes of other people and imagine what they're thinking, and more importantly, what they're feeling. And this does not take a lot of time. It just takes knowing how to do it, having this skill, this competency, which is all about being emotionally intelligent, right? But to be very intentional, to think, well, I have my perspective, but how might this be impacting other people? And then going into that and saying, oh, let me step into the shoes of my customers, step into the shoes of my team members, and really try to see a situation from their perspective. What I just shared with you, those 6 reasons why empathy is so important if you are a leader in a company, those are just some of the ways that not being empathetic can hurt your career. So let's just imagine that you rated yourself low on the scale that I asked about earlier, how empathetic you are. Maybe you gave yourself a 2. And so you might be saying, well, that's great. How do I become more empathetic? This sounds good. I want to be empathetic. I think most people want to be empathetic, but they might not know how to become more empathetic. So this is how you can develop empathy. And really, if you're already empathetic, I know some of you gave yourselves a 7, an 8.2 and higher, let's talk about what you can do today if you feel like, gosh, this sounds really good, and I want to be that empathetic person, that leader of my company and my team or in my community. Oh, I just want to be more empathetic to my family, right? Here's some things you can do. Number 1 step is that just to raise your awareness about this is key, right? That you want to connect more authentically and at a deeper level with people at work. And that's how you get things done, right? It's like we are so dependent on the quality of our relationships with people at work that we trust, that we know we've got their back, we've got their back, that they're going to do what they say and all of that. And empathy goes a long way in really facilitating people coming together and working towards a common goal to make things happen. Hey, maybe you've gotten feedback that you're not very empathetic. So you got to pay attention to that. And this is a skill, particularly as a leader, you've got to develop. Number 2, the other ways that you can develop empathy is to think and act like someone who has empathy. And maybe you know a mentor or somebody you've worked with that you just thought, man, they are just so good at this. They really are able to see all the perspectives of a situation and empathize and understand and step into the shoes of another person. So if you know someone like that in your world, watch them, observe them, learn from them, how they handle situations, how they dial up that social radar so that they can read people better and so that they can understand maybe what's not being said, right? It does require paying attention to people and not pretending to pay attention, not looking at your phone and trying to have a conversation with people, right? Number 3, you can work with a coach who's an expert in empathy or in emotional intelligence and all of those competencies. Empathy is just one of 12 emotional intelligence competencies, but a coach who's really trained in this knows how to ask you the right questions, such as this. Let me share these with you. Empathetic questions, if you're talking to someone, you're trying to demonstrate that you care, that you are feeling, you're really concerned, that you get them, right? You might say, tell me more about what's going on for you. Well, that must be really hard. I understand that you're upset about this situation. And you can say all of those things. Those are just a couple examples. even if you disagree with why the person's upset. Again, we're just getting back to the foundation of being empathetic towards another human being, right? Then you can problem solve a situation. But most important to people who are under stress, they're struggling with something, maybe they're coming to you and they need empathy first. They need to be understood. They need to be heard. That's what I'm talking about. Then you can solve the problem. So the other strategy here in developing your empathy, number 4, is to listen more than you talk. Listen more than you talk. When someone is sharing a problem with you, maybe it's very highly emotional and you just need to sit back and listen and not say anything, right? And again, I want you to think about what the person's saying. Is that congruent with their body language? Because if the person is sitting there with their arms crossed and saying, everything's just great, their body is sending you a different message than what the words coming out of the mouth are saying. And so you want to probe that. You might say, well, tell me exactly how you feel about that, right? You know, is there anything else you want to share with me? I'm sensing that maybe there's more to this than we've actually heard. Can you tell me more? And just keep peeling that back a little bit. Number 5, and another way to develop empathy is to read. You know, there are a lot of great books about how to do this. One is by Dr. Travis Bradberry, who's really an expert in this. And he has a lot of exercises in his book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, that you can read his book and do the exercises that will really focus on developing those emotional intelligence muscles like empathy. And sometimes those are very, very helpful. You can do some role playing, and it gives you a lot of practical strategies for developing empathy. And number 6 in how to develop empathy is this. If you work for a company, maybe they can bring in a person who teaches empathy skills as well as other emotional intelligence skills. Sometimes this might sound like an EQ workshop, right? It's the people skills type of workshop. So maybe you can get it sponsored if you work for an organization and they can bring somebody in to teach you this. And it's just so important because, you know, you come into the workplace and there's just an acceptance of people have a certain IQ that's high. But what really separates super successful people from average people is their ability to do things like be empathetic, to demonstrate their emotional intelligence. And so if you have those competencies, those skills, you're going to be more successful in your career and in your personal life. Now, we don't have time tonight to go into a deep dive about the hows and all, but those 6 things are just a couple of things that you can do to increase your empathy. If you think you're doing pretty well, but you can get to a 10, maybe you're a 7, you want to go to a 10. Or if you feel like I'm at ground zero and I got to get this skill because I realize how important it is. Those are just a couple of things that you can do. But empathy, look, have no doubt, it is an essential skill and it's a leadership skill, really. People want to work with people that they know care about them. And if they think that they're working for someone that doesn't care about them, how do you think that impacts motivation? How do you think that impacts people feeling safe to come to you to talk about proactively problems that may be on a project? It has an impact. So people who have empathy for others are going to be more successful in life at work and at home. And again, everything we've talked about tonight can help you in your personal life too. And, you know, our lives are so blended now. We don't have like this, sharp line between work and home, right? So we want to be empathetic to the people we care about at home as well. But when we're under stress or we're self-absorbed or we're short on time, that can really negatively impact our bandwidth for being able to be empathetic if we're not careful. So in closing, let me just say that, one of the most powerful ways to develop the skill, again, is working with a coach who has been trained to develop these competencies like empathy, like active listening, that demonstrate that you actually care about another person on your team, in your division, in your organization. And, you know, that gives you an opportunity to practice with a coach and to get feedback. And a coach also will hold you accountable for really developing these skills and not doing just sort of a, you know, check the box kind of thing, but really understanding how you can do this, because it's just so important. And it's a game changer in your leadership competencies and in your ability to lead and inspire other people. Let's see, what else that I want to say about this? So it really does help transform how you communicate with people, right? And empathy is the way, you know? So teaching people how to be more empathetic is what I do all day, every day. I'm certified in emotional intelligence, and I know how to teach people how to develop this particular skill, as well as the other 11 emotional and social competencies, strategies, and skills. I've done this for physicians, IT executives, leaders of all kinds of organizations, because we're not born knowing how to be empathetic. Again, we might have had parents that taught us this by how they lived their lives. And maybe some of us, you know, had mentors that showed us how to do it. But the beauty of this is that everybody can learn how to do it. Just like you develop a bicep muscle with weights, you can develop your ability to be more empathetic by the things that I've shared here tonight. So if you want to know more about how you can up-level your emotional and social intelligence and begin to learn things about how to be more empathetic, how to be a better listener, how to be a more effective leader, all of those things, you can reach out to me. We can have a conversation about how I've helped other people develop those competencies. And we could just schedule a short call, and if I can help you, great. And if not, it's okay too. We'll have a good conversation. And all you have to do is go to my calendar at janelleevans.com. I'll post it here in the replay. And if you want to just talk and say, hey, you know I'm not able to be as successful in my job as possible because I've gotten feedback. I don't come across very empathetic, and yet I feel like I am. And in fact, you might be more sympathetic than empathetic. But the good news is you can learn how to do it. And that's what I help people in the workplace do every day. So if you want to have a conversation, just go to janelleevans.com/talk, and we'll set up a time to talk. So I hope this has been helpful for you to really understand the distinction between being empathetic and sympathetic and why it even matters to you and how it can help you be more successful. Help you help others is always a win-win, right? So Tina, thank you, and Heather and Michelle and others, David, and I'm trying to see who else joined tonight. I can't see all of your names, so I apologize if I'm not giving you a shout out, but just know this, I appreciate you showing up tonight so much, and I hope that this will just spark your interest and your awareness about, hey, am I being empathetic or am I being sympathetic? And I think in a lot of cases, we really want to be more empathetic versus sympathetic. And so there are times for both, obviously. So if you want to know about it, reach out to me at janelleevans.com/talk, and we can have a conversation about it. And again, good news is we can all learn how to do this. It's a skill set. So thanks so much for showing up tonight. I appreciate you. Thanks, Debbie and Tina and all of you here tonight. Again, I wish I could see everybody's names because I do want to honor you for taking time to show up tonight. So again, this is a topic very near and dear to my heart because I think we all want to get it right. We all want to show up for people and support other people because it's just so important, right? That human connection. That's why we're all here. All right, guys, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk next week. Take care. Bye-bye.